Hey guys, tonight we are journeying back to a time of stone walls, flickering torchlight, and profound, terrifying silence. We're not exploring a single profession so much as the receiving end of one, a dark and intricate system of justice where guilt was often presumed, and the truth was something to be extracted, piece by painful piece. We are going to explore the world of medieval torture, not through the eyes of the executioner, but through yours. We'll be taking a slow, atmospheric journey through a series of devices, some famous, some obscure, all designed with a chilling purpose in mind. Honestly, given the general lack of hygiene and due process, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Comment your city and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world vanishes in a deafening slam of heavy oak and the grinding shriek of an iron lock. You are thrown forward, stumbling into a darkness so absolute it feels like a physical weight against your eyelids. The air is immediately cold, stale, and wet, thick with the smell of mold and something older, a scent of misery that has soaked into the very stone. You wait for your eyes to adjust, but there is no adjustment to be made. There is no light, not a sliver under the door, not a crack in the ceiling. This is a perfect, seamless black. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at the edges of your composure. You reach out, your hands shaking, and find a wall. It is rough, damp, and chilling to the touch. You decide to map your prison. You take a step to your right, your hand trailing along the stone. But after a single stride, your shoulder bumps into another wall. You've found a corner. Confused, you turn and shuffle forward, expecting a cell of reasonable size. But again, after only 2 short steps, your outstretched hands meet the opposite wall. A wave of claustrophobic dread washes over you as the horrifying reality of your confinement becomes clear. You try to stand to your full height, to stretch the growing ache from your back, but your head collides with a low stone ceiling. You try to lie down, to seek rest on the floor, but the space is too short. Your feet hit one wall while your bent knees press against the other. This is not a room. It is a stone box, a cage, a niche carved from the earth with malicious precision. This is the infamous cell known as Little Ease. Its entire design is a form of passive torture, engineered to deny the human body any posture of comfort. You cannot stand. You cannot sit. You cannot lie down. You are forced into a constant, agonizing crouch, a position that strains every muscle and contorts every joint. The hours, or perhaps days, bleed into one another. The only markers of time are the distant, muffled sounds from the world above, a faint church bell, the rumble of a cart, a shouted order, sounds that only amplify your profound isolation. This specific form of torment was a grim specialty in places like the Tower of London, reserved for prisoners of note whose wills needed to be broken before a more formal interrogation could begin. The physical misery is relentless, but it's the psychological assault that truly dismantles you. In the sensory deprivation of the absolute dark, your mind begins to turn on itself. You start to see phantoms in the blackness, shimmering lights that aren't there. You hear whispers in the drip of water from the ceiling, the scuttling of unseen vermin becoming the footsteps of your jailer. Historians still debate the true purpose of such calculated cruelty. Was it merely a pragmatic tool to secure a confession? The queen of proofs needed to legitimize a trial? Or did it serve a deeper, more theatrical function? a demonstration of the absolute, almost divine power of the state or the church over the body and soul of an individual, proving that they could unmake a person even before passing judgment. As you press your back against the cold, weeping stone, the distinction feels academic. The effect is the same. You are being unmade. You trace the walls with your fingertips, a desperate attempt to ground yourself in reality. You feel scratches, names, and symbols left by those who came before you, a ghostly communion of suffering. This adds a strange, fringe terror to the experience, the knowledge that others have lost their minds in this very spot. You are not just fighting the stone and the dark. You are fighting the lingering residue of their despair. Your own identity begins to feel thin, porous, as if the darkness is trying to scour your name from your own memory and replace it with the collective agony of this place. The initial panic fades, replaced by a dull, hopeless ache. Every muscle screams. Your joints feel like they are filled with hot sand. You are a prisoner not just of the stone walls, but of your own body, which has been turned into an instrument of your own torture. And you know, with a certainty that sinks deeper than the cold, that this is not the end. This is the prelude. This is the breaking of the ground. They are emptying you, making you a hollow vessel, ready to be filled with whatever words they demand. The little ease is designed to make you crave the appearance of your torturer, to see him as a savior who will release you from this cramped hell, even if that release is into a new one. After an eternity in the cramped darkness, the sound of the bolt being thrown is a violent explosion in the silence. The door scrapes open, and a wave of torchlight, yellow and orange, floods the cell. It's physically painful, a searing shock to your unaccustomed eyes. You cry out and shield your face, but rough hands grab you, hauling you from your stone prison. Your legs, locked for days in a miserable crouch, refuse to cooperate. They are stiff, weak, and shot through with fiery pins and needles. You collapse, unable to support your own weight, and they drag you across the damp floor like a sack of grain. You are taken to another room, this one larger, but no more welcoming. This is the interrogation chamber. There is no grand array of terrifying instruments hanging on the walls. The reality is far more banal and therefore more chilling. A single heavy oak table dominates the space, scarred with generations of use. A low stool is kicked into place for you. Across the table sits a man in a high-backed chair. He is not a hulking, hooded figure. He is a clerk, a bureaucrat, with soft hands and a weary, impatient expression. He has a sheaf of papers before him and an inkpot at his elbow. This is not a battle of good versus evil for him. It is administrative work. He looks at you with profound disinterest, his gaze sweeping over your filthy, trembling form. You have been given time to contemplate your sins, he says, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. We have prepared a full account of your transgressions. All that is required is your mark. Confess, and your ordeal may be lessened. He pushes a piece of parchment across the table. In elegant script, it details a list of crimes you do not recognize, conspiracies you have never heard of, heresies you do not understand. Your voice is a dry, croaking thing when you finally use it to refuse. The man sighs, a theatrical display of disappointment, as if you are a particularly stubborn child. A pity, he murmurs. He turns to a small, unassuming wooden chest on a nearby table and lifts the lid. You expect something large and terrifying, but he retrieves an object that is shockingly small, fitting easily in the palm of his hand. It is a metal device, a small vise with two flat plates connected by a central screw. It is simple, portable, and looks almost like a craftsman's tool. This is the thumb screw. As he places it on the table, you notice other, similar items in the chest, a grim collection of specialized tools. He seems to follow your gaze. We have them for the fingers, the toes, even the legs, should the need arise, he says matter-of-factly. But we shall begin simply. He gestures, and one of the guards forces your hands onto the table, placing your thumbs side by side into the cold metal clamp. The clerk himself leans forward, his soft fingers taking hold of the handle. He asks the first question from his list, his eyes boring into yours. When you deny it, he gives the screw a slow, deliberate turn. The pressure is immediate, a dull, spreading ache that feels less like a pinch and more like a deep, internal bruise. He asks again. You deny it again. He turns the screw again. The squeak of the tightening thread is a tiny, piercing sound in the quiet room. The ache sharpens, becoming a hot, throbbing pain that radiates from your thumbs up your wrists and into your arms. It's a remarkably efficient device, inflicting a focused and escalating agony that overwhelms the senses without causing the mercy of unconsciousness. Your mind, desperate for a distraction, latches onto fragmented knowledge, stories you've heard. You remember hearing that the application of such questioning was supposed to be a regulated affair. In some principalities, laws dictated that a doctor must be present to prevent accidental death, that a scribe must record every word, that the duration must be measured by the slow burn of a candle. But as you look around this grim, windowless room, you see no doctor, no scribe taking notes, no candle marking the time. Historians still debate how strictly these supposed regulations were ever followed. Was the legal framework of torture a genuine attempt at restraint? Or was it merely a convenient fiction, a veneer of legitimacy painted over the brutal, unchecked reality of what happened in the privacy of a dungeon? The clerk's voice drones on, a meaningless litany of questions that have become disconnected from their purpose. His questions are just the rhythm, the percussion to the melody of your pain. With every denial, he administers another quarter turn of the screw. The pain is no longer just in your hands. It's a white-hot nova in your mind. You can feel the delicate bones grinding against each other. You think you hear a faint, wet, cracking sound, but you can no longer trust your senses. The room begins to swim, the torchlight blurring into streaks of fire. The clerk leans in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. All of this can end, he says, his breath warm against your ear. The path to peace is so simple. One word. Just say yes. Just make your mark. And it will stop. He presents the choice not as one of truth and lies, of guilt and innocence, but as a simple, pragmatic solution to an unbearable problem. It is the ultimate temptation, the offer of the present moment's salvation at the cost of your future, your name, your soul. His hand rests on the handle of the screw, his knuckles white. He waits for your answer, his weary eyes promising an end to the agony. All you have to do is surrender. Whether you confessed or not, you can't say for sure. The world went white, then red, then dissolved into a merciful, roaring blackness. You awaken on the damp straw of a different cell, a slightly larger one where you can almost stretch your legs. The throbbing, monumental agony in your hands is the only proof of what happened. They are swollen, bruised, and feel like two lumps of hot lead at the ends of your arms. You lie there in a stupor, drifting, until the sound of the bolt being drawn scrapes you back to consciousness. The guards enter, their faces as impassive as ever. You brace yourself for a return to the chamber, for another session with the clerk and his little box of screws. But they don't drag you deeper into the dungeon. Instead, they haul you back up the spiral staircase, back towards the world you thought you had lost forever. Each step is a struggle, your muscles weak and uncooperative. The torchlight gives way to a faint gray, and then you are at the top. A heavy door is pushed open, and you are shoved into the blinding, shocking reality of daylight. The sudden light is a physical blow, and the cacophony of sound is overwhelming after the tomb-like silence below. You are in the heart of the town square. It is market day. The air is thick with the smells of baking bread, livestock, wood smoke, and unwashed humanity. People are haggling, laughing, shouting. For a dizzying moment, it feels like a dream of freedom. But then you see it, standing in the center of the square, like a skeletal, leafless tree, the pillory. It is a simple, brutal piece of woodwork. A thick post supports a hinged framework with 3 holes carved into it. One large one for the head, and 2 smaller ones for the hands. You are dragged up a small wooden platform. Your arms are pulled through the holes. Your head is forced down into the central gap. The top board is slammed shut, and a heavy wooden pin is dropped into place, locking you in. The position is immediately humiliating and uncomfortable, forcing you into a permanent, stooping bow before the entire town. Your hands are trapped, your head is bowed, and you are utterly exposed. For a moment, the market continues its rhythm, but then people begin to notice. A hush falls, rippling outwards from the pillory. The haggling stops, the chatter dies. All eyes turn to you. You are the day's entertainment. The first jeer cuts through the silence, followed by a cackle of laughter. Then the insults begin. A torrent of accusations and filth rain down upon you by people who were, just days ago, your neighbors. Then comes the first projectile, a clump of wet mud thrown by a young boy that splatters against your cheek, cold and gritty. This opens the floodgates. The public punishment begins in earnest. This was a grimly interactive form of justice. People didn't just throw rotten vegetables, though plenty of those come your way, soft and pulpy as they explode against your back. They threw whatever was at hand. You are pelted with animal dung, slimy fish heads from the monger's stall, and other fouler things. This was the fringe reality of the pillory. A popular victim, one whose alleged crime angered the public, could be seriously injured or worse. You, accused of heresy, are deeply unpopular. As you stand there, head locked in wood, enduring this storm of refuse and hatred, a strange thought drifts through your mind. Is this punishment truly for you, or is it for them? Historians still debate the primary function of these public spectacles. Was the goal your physical suffering and humiliation, or was this a piece of didactic street theater? A living sermon designed to reinforce the social order. You are a lesson. Your degradation is a warning to everyone else. This is the fate of those who stray. You are an unwilling actor in a crude, brutal play about the importance of conformity. The shame is a tool used to police the thoughts and actions of the entire community. The sun crawls across the sky. Your neck and back scream from the stooped position. Your face is caked in filth. Flies buzz around you, drawn by the refuse. Thirst becomes a torment. The crowd's attention ebbs and flows. At times, a fresh wave of people arrives at the market, and the jeering and pelting begins anew. At others, you are largely ignored, left to bake in the sun, a piece of living scenery. A few people look at you with pity, but they quickly turn away, afraid to be associated with you even by a compassionate glance. As dusk begins to settle, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and purple, the guards return. The pin is lifted, the board is raised, and you collapse forward, your muscles seizing. You are cut down from the pillory, your body bruised and aching, your spirit flayed raw. The private, focused agony of the thumbscrews was one kind of hell. This public degradation, this social death, is another, perhaps even more profound. You have been stripped of your name, your dignity, your very humanity, and turned into an object of public scorn. They shove you back towards the dungeon's darkness, the jeers of the departing crowd following you all the way. You carry not only the pain in your hands now, but the sticky, stinking filth of your community's hatred. You are thrown back into the darkness of a cell, the filth from the pillory still clinging to your skin, the jeers of the crowd still ringing in your ears. The pain in your hands has subsided into a dull, permanent throb, but it is nothing compared to the new wound, the one carved into your spirit by the weight of 1,000 hateful eyes. You have been publicly unmade, and in the quiet solitude of the dungeon, you feel a profound sense of defeat. You thought you had reached the bottom. You were wrong. Days later, the guards return. Their movements are different this time. There is a new gravity, a grim purpose to their actions. The clerk is with them, his face impassive, holding a scroll. He informs you that your refusal to offer a full confession, combined with your obstinate silence in the pillory, is considered proof of a deeper, more hardened guilt. Your resilience has been interpreted as malice. You are to be put to the question more strenuously. They don't lead you up towards the light, nor back to the small interrogation room. They guide you deeper into the dungeon, down a corridor you haven't seen before, to a part of the fortress that feels more ancient, more secluded. The air here is colder, heavier, and carries the faint, acrid scent of old iron and sweat. They stop before a heavy, iron-banded door and open it. The room is long and narrow. In the center, illuminated by a single, sputtering torch, is the rack. It's larger than you imagined from whispered stories. It is not a table, but a long, low bed of thick, dark oak, a solid, unyielding frame. At either end, you can see the wooden rollers, wrapped with thick, coarse ropes. It is a thing built for one purpose, a piece of engineering designed to deconstruct the human body. The clerk is there, along with a large, powerfully built man whose bare arms are corded with muscle. This is not a bureaucrat. This is a technician. There is no preamble this time, no offer of a written confession. You are stripped to your breeches, the cold air raising goose flesh on your skin. You are forced onto the hard wooden frame. It is unforgiving against your back, every vertebra pressing into the wood. The two men work with a detached, methodical efficiency. The technician takes your wrists, binding them tightly with the rough ropes of the top roller. The clerk does the same with your ankles on the bottom roller. The knots are pulled tight, the rope biting into your skin. You are spread-eagled, pinned, completely helpless. The clerk looks down at you, his face unreadable in the flickering torchlight. "We will ask you one last time," he says, his voice echoing slightly in the stone chamber. "Tell us the names of your co-conspirators." When you answer that there are none, he simply nods to the technician. The large man fits a long iron lever into a socket on the top roller. He braces himself, and with a grunt of effort, he pushes. The first sound you hear is not from your own throat. It is the groan of the rack itself. the sound of the thick oak frame taking the strain. Then comes the creak of the ropes as they pull taut, and then the most chilling sound of all. The sharp, metallic click of the ratchet pawl falling into place, locking the tension. That click is the sound of irreversibility. There is no going back. The sensation is not a sharp pain, not at first. It is a deep, inexorable pull. You feel a powerful stretching in your shoulders and hips, a slow, steady separation in your joints. It is the feeling of being methodically, deliberately elongated. The clerk asks the question again. You gasp out a denial. The technician gives the lever another push. The frame groans. The ropes creak, click. The tension increases. The dull ache begins to sharpen. A line of fire draws itself down your spine. Your joints feel hot and loose, as if they are slowly being pulled from their sockets. The sounds become a part of the torture, a rhythmic soundscape of dread. The technician's heavy breathing, the groan of the wood, and the steady, punctuating click of the ratchet. In a strange, detached corner of your mind, you find yourself questioning the logic of this ordeal. What truth can possibly be found here? Historians will forever debate the supposed efficacy of confessions obtained under such duress. Even in your own time, some scholars argued against it, questioning if any man or woman could be expected to cling to the truth when their body was being systematically pulled apart. Would they not simply say anything, confess to any crime, implicate anyone, their friends, their family, their king, just to make it stop? The rack is not a tool for finding truth. It is a tool for producing words, the words they have already written on their parchment. The technician leans on the lever again. Click. A new galaxy of pain explodes behind your eyes. You feel a deep, sickening pop in your left shoulder, a wet, tearing sensation that steals your breath. A scream is torn from your throat, raw and animalistic. The pain is absolute, a white-hot flood that drowns out every other thought, every other sensation. Through a shimmering haze of agony, you see the clerk's face appear above you, upside down. A joint has been displaced, he observes, his tone as clinical as a physician diagnosing a cough. He leans closer. Shall we continue with the other one? He asks, his voice almost gentle. Or are you ready to tell us what we need to know? The technician's hand rests on the lever, waiting. The air is thick with the promise of more. You surface from the black ocean of agony to the dim light of your cell. Your body is a wreck, a territory of pain you no longer recognize as your own. Your left shoulder is a constant, blinding source of fire, the joint having been crudely put back into place, but not healed. The clerk seemed satisfied with whatever sounds you made on the rack, taking your incoherent cries as a confession. For a time, you are left to fester in your misery, a broken thing in the dark. But then, the nature of your ordeal shifts. Your very resilience, your survival of the little ease and the crushing screws and the stretching rack begins to work against you. The whispers that filter down from the world above have changed. The charge of heresy, of conspiracy, has been augmented by a more primal, more terrifying accusation: witchcraft. Your ability to endure such torment is no longer seen as a sign of fortitude, but as proof of an unholy pact. The devil, they murmur, gives his followers unnatural strength, and so a new trial is deemed necessary, an ordeal. You are dragged from the fortress once more, but this time feels different. It is not the shaming walk to the pillory. It is a formal procession. The entire village seems to be there, lining the path from the dungeon to the river that runs along the edge of the town. The mood of the crowd is not just one of scorn, it is a feverish, almost festive atmosphere. A chilling blend of religious piety and morbid excitement. This is a spectacle, a piece of high drama, and you are the star. The ordeal by water was often a major community event, a raw and public piece of legal theater. At the riverbank, the device awaits. It looks deceptively simple, almost rustic, after the grim engineering of the rack. It is a dunking stool. A long, thick wooden beam is mounted on a post near the water's edge, functioning like a giant seesaw. A simple, sturdy wooden chair is bolted to the end that extends out over the river. It looks like something a farmer might build, harmless and crude. The vicar is present, his face stern, a holy book in his hand. He begins to pray loudly, his voice calling on the water as a pure element of baptism to render its judgment. You are bound tightly to the chair with thick, wet ropes. Your arms are lashed to the armrests, your torso to the back. There is no escape. The technician who operated the rack now stands at the landward end of the long beam. At a nod from the clerk, he puts his weight onto his end of the beam, and your end, with you strapped to it, swings up and out over the cold, murky river. For a moment, you hang suspended between the sky and the water, the jeering faces of the crowd on one side, the indifferent, flowing current below. Then, the technician releases his end. The beam pivots, and you are plunged downwards. The shock of the cold water is absolute. It steals the air from your lungs in a single violent gasp. The world transforms into a silent, swirling chaos of green and brown. The roar of the crowd vanishes, replaced by a deep, pressing hum. Panic explodes in your chest as your body screams for air. You struggle against your bonds, but they only tighten. Just as your vision begins to speckle with black, you are hauled upwards, breaking the surface with a desperate, ragged gasp. You get one breath, maybe two, of the cool air before you are plunged back under. This is the terrible logic of the trial by water, a fact known to every soul in the cheering crowd. Water, the holy medium of baptism, will not suffer a witch to enter it. Having renounced her baptism in a pact with Satan, a witch will be rejected by the pure element. She will float. An innocent person, however, will be embraced by the water. They will sink. As they pull you up for a third time, your waterlogged clothes weighing you down, your mind reels from the perfect diabolical trap you are in. Historians still debate the true nature of this ordeal. Was it the automatic death sentence it appears to be? Drown if you're innocent? Get executed if you're guilty? Or was it more nuanced? Some accounts suggest a rope was tied around the victim's waist, to be pulled back to shore if they began to sink. The judgment rendered symbolically, without the need for an actual drowning. Was there a chance for survival, a way to pass this terrible test? Or was it all just a slow, terrifying, and theatrical method of execution? Down you go again. You lose track of how many times you are submerged. The world becomes a repeating cycle of cold, silent pressure and a brief, gasping, chaotic moment of air and noise. Your strength fades. Your will to fight evaporates. The burning in your lungs becomes your entire reality. The prayers of the vicar and the shouts of the crowd merge into a single, distant, watery drone. They lower you one last time into the green depths. You feel your consciousness begin to fray as the last of the light fades from your vision and the water turns from green to absolute black. You come to consciousness. You don't know if you are muddy riverbank or floating, coughing up mouthfuls of foul, that the gritty water has given its verdict. Your lungs burn, and a violent shivering racks your entire body. The ordeal is over. You did not float, which, in the twisted logic of the trial, should proclaim your innocence. But you did not drown either. You were pulled out at the last possible moment, limp and half dead. The result is ambiguous, and in a system that thrives on certainty, ambiguity is just another form of guilt. Your survival is not taken as a sign of divine protection, but as yet another example of your unnatural, stubborn refusal to accept your fate. Back in the cold embrace of the dungeon, something in you breaks. The stoic silence you once held shatters. You use your voice. You scream yourself raw against the injustice, your shouts echoing in the stone corridors. You curse the clerk, the vicar, the guards. You protest your innocence to the unhearing walls, the words tumbling out in a torrent of rage and despair. You have endured confinement, crushing, stretching, and drowning. You have nothing left to lose. But you are mistaken. You still have your voice, and they decide it is time to take that too. The guards enter your cell, but this time they are not here to drag you to an interrogation. The clerk holds a new device, something that looks less like an instrument of pain and more like a bizarre piece of iron headgear. It is a scold's bridle, or a brank. It's an intricate cage of iron bands, hinged at the back, designed to fit over your entire head. But its most sinister feature is the small, flat plate of iron, the bit, that juts inwards from the front. Its purpose is singular and horrifying: to silence you. This particular bridle is a cruel work of art, a testament to the blacksmith's grotesque imagination. This is the weird, theatrical fringe of punishment. It has been fashioned to resemble a demonic face, with a long, hooked nose and leering, empty eye sockets. To complete the humiliation, a small iron bell is attached to the top, designed to tinkle with every movement, ensuring you cannot pass unnoticed. You fight, but your weakened body is no match for them. They force you to your knees and wrench the cold iron cage over your head. The world becomes a grid of black iron bars. The hinge is slammed shut, and a heavy padlock clicks into place, sealing you inside. Then comes the final violation. One of the guards forces your mouth open and slides the iron bit inside, pressing it down hard upon your tongue. The taste of cold, rusty metal fills your mouth. The pressure is immense. You try to speak, to scream, but the moment you move your tongue against the bit, a sharp, cutting pain slices through it. You are rendered utterly mute, capable only of making choked, guttural sounds. Your punishment is to be a silent parade. You are led back out into the village, the little bell on your head ringing out your shame with every shuffling step. The humiliation is absolute. You are a walking spectacle of silencing. Children point and laugh at the tinkling monster. Adults jeer, their taunts all the more cutting because you are physically incapable of responding. They mock your inability to speak, celebrating the theft of your voice. You know this device. You have seen it used before, almost exclusively on women. A woman who gossiped too much, who argued with her husband, who was deemed a common scold, would be forced to wear the brank as a public lesson in female silence. And as you stumble through the market square, a prisoner inside your own head, you wonder about this. Historians still debate the gentry of this punishment. Was the scold's bridle truly, as the overwhelming evidence suggests, a tool designed exclusively to police and punish female speech in a deeply misogynistic society? Or were there rare, undocumented instances of men, blasphemers, perjurers, seditious talkers being subjected to this uniquely degrading instrument. In this moment, the answer feels clear. They have not just silenced you, they have stripped you of your manhood, punishing you with a tool designed for women, compounding the humiliation. After hours of being led through the streets like a performing animal, you are chained to the market cross, a silent, iron-faced gargoyle for all to mock. The sun sets. Finally, the guards return. A key turns in the padlock. The iron cage is lifted from your head. The sudden freedom is dizzying. Your jaw aches with a deep, grinding pain. Your tongue is raw and swollen, the taste of blood mixing with the rust. But the physical pain is a dull echo compared to the psychological wound. They have taken your protests and turned them into a public comedy. They have taken your very identity, your ability to name yourself and speak your truth, and locked it away in a cage of iron. You are shoved back into your cell, and this time, the silence that falls is your own. You are left in the silence of your cell, but it is a new kind of silence. The ringing in your ears from the tinkling bell has faded, but the memory of stolen speech remains. You have been paraded, shamed, and muted. A profound weariness settles into your bones, deeper than any physical ache. You have endured all their trials, and yet, here you are. There is a sense that the process is changing, that they are no longer trying to extract a confession or make a public example of you. The air grows still with a feeling of dreadful finality. One day the guards come for you. There is no clerk with a scroll, no technician with a toolbox. Their faces are grim, and they lead you with a purpose that feels different from all the times before. You are taken up winding stairs, past the levels of the dungeon you know, into a part of the fortress that is clean, dry, and eerily quiet. They lead you into a chamber that feels less like a place of work and more like a private museum. The air is still, and strange objects wrapped in canvas line the walls. In the center of the room, standing upright like a silent sentinel, is the device that has haunted the nightmares of a continent, the Iron Maiden. It is taller than a man, a sarcophagus of dark, pitted iron crafted into a roughly human form. The face sculpted on its front is serene, almost motherly, which makes the entire object infinitely more terrifying. It looks ancient, purposeful, and absolute. A high-ranking official, a man you've never seen before, dressed in velvet and fur, is there to greet you. He gestures toward the iron shell with a proprietary air. Your soul has proven to be remarkably stubborn, the official says, his voice smooth and cultured. It requires a penance of unique intimacy, a final embrace to persuade you toward repentance. He then describes the legend of its function, the weird and terrible fringe detail of its supposed genius. He speaks of the dozens of spikes that line the interior of the two doors, telling you how they were meticulously positioned by master anatomists. They are not designed to strike the heart or brain for a quick end. No, they are placed to slide into the flesh of the arms, the legs, the shoulders, the abdomen, missing vital organs. The doors are meant to be closed slowly, inch by inch, the spikes piercing and pinning you in a cocoon of agony, allowing you to bleed slowly, to remain conscious for hours, perhaps even days, before the end. As he speaks, a strange, lucid thought cuts through your fear. You look at the device, at its elaborate hinges, its sculpted face, its almost theatrical menace, and it strikes you as wrong. You have felt the grim, functional reality of the thumbscrew and the rack. They were crude, brutally honest tools. This feels like something else. This feels like a story. It is too perfect, too diabolical. too much like a monster from a morality play. And here you stand, at the heart of one of history's greatest debates. Historians now argue, with near unanimous consensus, that the Iron Maiden was never a genuine medieval instrument of torture. The famous examples that terrified museum-goers for centuries were, in fact, hoaxes created in the late 18th and 19th centuries by piecing together unrelated artifacts to create a spectacle for a paying, morbidly curious public. It is a myth, a horror story given form. But in this moment, for you, that historical fact is meaningless. The object is here. It is real, and you are its audience. The true torture of the Iron Maiden, you realize, is not the certainty of its function, but the terrible uncertainty. Is this a genuine ancient device they have kept hidden for special occasions? Or are you the first and only victim of a madman's newly forged invention, a test subject for a legend? The official seems to read the question in your eyes. He smiles, a thin, cruel line. He gives a signal. A guard steps forward and with a great heave pulls open the two heavy iron doors. They swing outward with a deep, groaning protest. And you see them, the spikes, a forest of them, long and sharp, lining the interior, glinting dully in the torchlight. They are real. Your final penance awaits, the official says softly. Step inside. You are prodded forward. Your bare feet are cold on the stone floor. You are being pushed toward the open arms of this iron effigy into its spiked embrace. The fear is no longer of pain alone. It is the fear of the unknown, the fear of becoming a part of the story, a footnote in the history of a monstrous legend. As you stand at the threshold of the Maiden, you do not know if you are facing a tool of justice or a piece of theater. You only know that the doors are about to close. The iron doors of the Maiden did not close on you. The performance of your terror was, it seems, sufficient. Your catatonic state in the face of the legend was taken as a final, silent confession. You were pulled back from the brink, spared the embrace of the spiked sarcophagus, only to be handed a different, and perhaps more terrible, final judgment. You are found guilty of everything. The charges of heresy, conspiracy, and witchcraft are read aloud in the quiet chamber. Your punishment, the official announces, will be a lesson that will linger in the memory of the parish for a generation. You are led from the fortress for the last time. A crowd has gathered, but their mood is no longer one of feverish excitement or jeering scorn. A hushed, awed silence hangs over them. They follow as you are marched not to the town square, but out through the main gate and towards the high, lonely hill that overlooks the main road into town. It's a place of stark, wind-swept beauty, a place you can see the entire parish from. On the crest of the hill, a tall, thick wooden beam has been erected, like a gallows, its single arm extending out over the slope. Hanging from it by a heavy chain is not a hangman's noose, but a gibbet. It is an iron cage, forged in the rough shape of a human body. Black iron bars form a rigid exoskeleton with a hinged opening on the side. It is a suit of armor turned inside out, a prison designed not for confinement in the dark, but for ultimate, unending exposure. Your sentence is read aloud, and a collective gasp ripples through the crowd. You are not to be granted the mercy of a quick execution before being displayed. You are to be gibbeted alive. This is the rarest and most dreadful of punishments, a fringe horror reserved for those deemed so monstrous that their death must be a slow, public spectacle. You are to be a living scarecrow, a breathing monument to the consequences of defiance. The guards strip you of your shirt and force you into the iron cage. It is a brutally tight fit. cold bars press against your ribs, your back, your legs. You are encased, unable to move more than an inch in any direction. The cage is padlocked, the sound echoing in the unnatural quiet. Then, the winch mechanism groans. The heavy chain pulls taut, and you are hoisted into the air. The ground falls away. The faces of the crowd shrink into a pale, upturned mass. You are lifted higher and higher, until you are level with the arm of the gallows, swaying gently in the wind, suspended between the earth and the sky. The view is panoramic and breathtakingly cruel. You can see the whole of your life spread out below you. The village, the church, the river, the distant smudge of your hovel. You hang there, a prisoner of the sky, and watch the crowd slowly disperse, leaving you to your fate. As the silence returns, broken only by the creak of the chain and the sigh of the wind, you contemplate the purpose of this elaborate cruelty. Historians will forever debate the complex motivations behind the practice of gibbeting. Was it simply the ultimate deterrent, a gruesome warning to any traveler on the road below? Or was there a deeper spiritual damnation at play? By denying you a burial, by leaving your body to be picked apart by crows and rotted by the sun and rain, were they also punishing your soul, denying it rest and passage into the afterlife? Was this the final, absolute expression of the state's power? A declaration that their authority over your body, your story, and your very memory extended even beyond the moment of your death? The sun, which had been low in the sky, begins to set, bathing the landscape in a beautiful, agonizing display of color. The warmth of its last rays soon fades, replaced by the deep, penetrating cold of the night. The wind picks up, whistling through the bars of your cage, chilling you to the bone. You are completely exposed, a feast for the elements. Far below, the lights of the village begin to twinkle, each one a tiny star of warmth and community that you can see, but never again be a part of. The stars above emerge, cold and impossibly distant. Thirst begins its work. Your throat is a desert. Sleep is impossible, suspended as you are in this iron shell. The ordeal of the Little Ease was a torment of darkness and confinement. This is its opposite, a torment of absolute, unending exposure. You are a public exhibit, a living lesson, and your slow, lonely end has just begun. The birds will come with the dawn, the sun rises. It is a merciless, white-hot eye in the vast, empty sky. The beauty of the dawn, which you once took for granted, is now a source of exquisite torment. There is no shade in your iron cage, no escape from the relentless heat that begins to bake the iron bars, turning your prison into a furnace. Thirst is a fire in your throat. Your tongue is a dry, swollen thing in your mouth. The world below has become a shimmering, indistinct blur of green and brown. Time has dissolved into a repeating cycle of burning day and freezing night. In this state of delirium, suspended between life and death, your mind begins to break free from the confines of your body. The physical reality of your suffering, the aching joints, the burning thirst, the raw skin where the iron rubs, becomes a distant hum. Your consciousness, unmoored, begins to drift, contemplating other fates, other endings you have only heard of in stories designed to frighten children and chasten sinners. Your fevered imagination, seeking an escape from the slow torment of the gibbet, conjures a vision of a far more spectacular and far more legendary demise. You are no longer in an iron cage. You are standing in a sun-drenched courtyard in a land of white stone and blue seas, a place from ancient tales. Before you stands the brazen bull. It is a life-sized sculpture of a bull, cast entirely from gleaming bronze, its surface shimmering under the hot sun. It is a masterpiece of art, its muscles rippling, its head held high, its nostrils flared. But a single, small, hinged door on its flank reveals its true purpose. It is a hollow tomb. You remember the legend, a famous story of ancient tyranny. A victim is forced inside the hollow bull. The door is locked. A great fire is then kindled beneath its bronze belly. As the metal heats, the person inside is slowly roasted alive. The true genius of the device, the story goes, was in its acoustics. The bull's head was supposedly fitted with a complex system of tubes and pipes, designed to capture the victim's desperate, agonized screams and transmute them. The sounds would travel through the pipes and emerge from the bull's nostrils not as human cries, but as the deep, furious, bellowing roar of an enraged beast. The tyrant for whom it was built could be entertained by the bull's music, a symphony of suffering disguised as art. As your mind reels with this horrifying image, you recall the story's final, grim detail, the weird, ironic fate of its inventor. It was said that when the craftsman, Paralaos, presented the bull to the tyrant Phalaris, he was asked to demonstrate the acoustics. Paralaos proudly climbed inside, only for the tyrant, disgusted by the sheer cruelty of the invention, to lock the door and light the first fire, making the inventor the bull's first victim. His muffled shrieks, the first to be transformed into bellows, were a testament to his own terrible genius. But even here, in the depths of your delirium, a sliver of the lucid doubt that you felt before the Iron Maiden returns. The story is too perfect, too neat in its cruelty and irony. And just like the Maiden, historians and archaeologists will one day come to a near unanimous conclusion. The brazen bull almost certainly never existed. It was a piece of powerful political propaganda, a sensationalist fable written by later chroniclers to cement the image of a long-dead ruler as the epitome of a cruel tyrant. The debate is not over its existence, but over whether the story was pure fiction or a grotesque exaggeration of some other real practice of execution by fire. For you, however, swinging in your cage, the distinction between history and nightmare no longer matters. The legend has become your reality. The heat of the sun on the iron bars of your gibbet becomes the imagined heat of the fire licking at the bronze belly of the bull. The creaking of the chain in the wind becomes the imagined bellowing of the beast. Your own hoarse, dry gasps for air sound like the first muffled screams from within the hollow statue. You are in two places at once. You are the man dying of exposure in the sky, and you are the man being roasted alive on the ground. Your mind, in a final desperate act of self-torture, begins to blur all the ordeals into one. The crushing pressure of the little ease cell becomes the weight of the bronze walls pressing in. The stretching of the rack becomes the slow cooking of your own tendons. The water of the dunking stool becomes the sweat boiling on your skin. The imagined spikes of the maiden become the real heat of the fire. All your suffering, real and imagined, coalesces into one single, unending experience of torment. You are no longer a man. You are in vessel for pain, and as consciousness finally begins to abandon you completely, you do not know which legend you are dying in. You only know the fire is getting hotter. The fire of the bull and the ice of the gibbet merge into a single, impossible sensation. You are floating now, in a void where all the instruments of your ordeal have dissolved into their essential elements. The iron of the maiden's spikes, the bridle's cage, the thumbscrew's vice, and the bars of your current prison all melt into one singular concept: a cold, unyielding pressure. The wood of the rack that stretched you and the pillory that held you becomes one memory of rough, splintered confinement. The water of the dunking stool and the imagined flames of the bull become a single, breathless element. The torment of being unable to draw air. You are no longer a man in a cage. You are a drifting consciousness in a sea of remembered pain. In a final, fleeting moment of lucidity, your mind grasps for an idea you had almost forgotten. The concept of a good death. It was a cornerstone of your faith, the subject of countless sermons and woodcuts. The ars moriendi, the art of dying well. You picture it, a quiet room, a warm bed, the faces of loved ones gathered near, a priest anointing your head with holy oil and whispering the last rites to ensure your soul's peaceful passage. And in that moment, you understand the final, cruel masterpiece of your entire ordeal. The purpose was not just to kill you, it was to deny you that, to orchestrate a bad death in every conceivable way. Public, shameful, without comfort, and without God's final blessing. It was a damnation of the body designed to ensure the damnation of the soul. Your thoughts turn to the vessel you are leaving behind, the physical shell of you that hangs in the cage. Its work is not yet done. Even after your last breath has been stolen by the wind, your body will continue to serve its sentence. It will hang here, a rotting testament, picked at by crows, blackened by the sun, bleached by the rain. This was the final assertion of their power, a practice some might call a post-mortem execution. They believed that even in death, the body held a symbolic power, and by desecrating it, they could cement their lesson and perhaps even extend your punishment into the afterlife. And how will you be remembered by the people below? As your sense of self thins and unravels like smoke, you contemplate your own legacy. Historians will one day debate this very question. How were the victims of such public spectacles truly seen by the common folk who witnessed them? Will your name become a cautionary tale whispered to frighten children into obedience? A local bogeyman story attached to this lonely hill? Or will something else happen? Will a young farmer, feeling the sting of injustice from the local lord, look up at your wretched form and see not a heretic, but a symbol of defiance? Will your story be secretly retold as one of a man who refused to break, your place of execution becoming a site of whispered folklore, a place to leave a single wildflower in a quiet act of solidarity? Your suffering is over, but the story of your suffering now belongs to them. The sensations begin to fade. The pressure of the iron, the memory of wood, the echo of water and fire, they all become distant, like a story someone else once told you. The panoramic view of the world below you softens and blurs, the colors bleeding into one another. The sound of the wind becomes a gentle hum. The pain in your joints is a forgotten language. Your consciousness, which has been a screaming, terrified thing for so long, now shrinks to a single, quiet point of light, serene and detached. There is no final verdict from heaven or hell. There is no great revelation. There is only the end of the ordeal. The last echo of suffering fades into a profound and absolute peace. The story is over, and with that final quiet release, let the story itself fade away. Gently pull your awareness back from that cold, windy hill and bring it here, to the safety and warmth of your own room. The journey is over. The stone walls, the iron bars, the dark water, leave them all behind in that forgotten corner of history. They have no power here. The world of the story was one built on fear, on the need to control through spectacle and shame. It sought to orchestrate a bad death, to deny peace at every turn. But you are not there. You are here in a place of profound peace and security. Feel the reality of your own comfort, the gentle, steady weight of your blanket, the soft support of your pillow beneath your head, the quiet, rhythmic sounds of your own familiar space, the hum of a fan, the whisper of the air, the steady beat of your own calm heart. Let go of the tension of the narrative. Allow your muscles to relax from your jaw to your shoulders, down through your arms and your legs. There is no ordeal to endure, no judgment to face. There is only the simple, gentle task of letting go and drifting into sleep. The terrors of the past are just stories now, echoes in the dark, and they cannot touch you here. All that is left is this moment, this quiet, this peace.